hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment.
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease, black people hanging from trees, and white people looking and eating sandwiches. This is America. Are we going to deal with it or not? Why are you in denial?
Stop it, I'm not saying...
Let me let Mark respond.
Actually fought among itself.
Why is it that the #1 line of attack against him on the right is that he's Muslim?
We are not dealing with America's original sin and its disease of hate and racism towards black and brown people.
That is what they say. He's a Muslim. He's an immigrant. This is what makes him unacceptable.
I'm not going to sit here and condone it, Abby. I think the reality, though, is...
You condemn it?
Yeah, sure. But I think there's evacuated January 6th. That was not a racist incident. I don't know why you're making that connection.
My man was walking through the Capitol with a Confederate flag.
I was evacuated, Congressman.
What does the Confederate flag represent?
Come on, Congressman.
Hello, everybody. Guys, I have to say, this segment really shocked me. Some really sick racism coming out of Republicans, and I said to myself, no, wait, tell me it isn't so. Republicans and racism, who saw that coming? Check this out.
After State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani delivered that major upset in the New York City mayoral race, MAGA World responded with an onslaught of racist and Islamophobic attacks against him. Ultra-right-wing influencers like Laura Loomer and Charlie Kirk tried to tie him to a new 9/11. We're also hearing from elected lawmakers like Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who invoked 9/11, while her GOP colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene, posted this doctored image of the Statue of Liberty. And Trump advisor Stephen Miller, well, he mentioned a failure to, quote, control migration. He says that this is the reason why we have Zohran Mamdani as likely the Democratic primary winner. I think the question for me about this is, will this all just backfire?
I think this is just one of another example of a trend of the Trump administration and his proxies othering people with their language, right? You saw Vice President call Senator Padilla Jose Padilla intentionally. You saw President Trump has previously asked Asian staffers, where are you really from? Matt Walsh, another proxy for President Trump, made an implication that because a significant percentage of people in New York are foreign-born, that it's not an American city anymore. This is an administration that has vilified the word diversity. So for some reason, this administration has forgotten that the bedrock of our society is immigration and new Americans. It's not just multi-general Americans. It's everybody coming together to make the diversity of our country special. And this dog whistle and this signaling is candidly disgusting and has no place in America.
Mamdani was on MSNBC tonight, and he actually responded to some of this. Listen.
It's sad in that in one sense it's unsurprising, and in another it is still deeply disappointing to see what politics has become in this moment. To have to deal with regular death threats where I'm told that someone is going to blow up my car and is going to kill me and my family and the people that I love.
I mean, frankly, it's like, okay, you disagree with his policies, Why is it that the #1 line of attack against him on the right is that he's Muslim?
I don't know if that is #1 attack, Abby. I mean, I think in our conversation tonight, we've been focused pretty much on the policy.
I mean, you have. I'm not talking about you. Look, you're invited to this table. I'm talking about the people who, as we just showed, that is what they say. He's a Muslim. He's an immigrant. This is what makes him unacceptable.
I'm not going to sit here and condone it, Abby. I think the reality, though, is...
You condemn it?
Yeah, sure. But I think there's performative artists on both sides, in both sides of politics today. And as intolerable as some of the rhetoric is, the reality is that the last 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump were from leftists. Assassination attempt on Brett Kavanaugh is from leftists. So we condemn the rhetoric on the right, but it seems like it's always focused on the right and actually not focused on the actions on the left.
2 elected officials in Minnesota were killed. They were Democrats. That wasn't an assassination attempt.
They
were killed.
They were killed. And
Hold on, let me finish.
There's still a question about the motive of the person who did it.
These were 2 Democratic elected officials in Minnesota who were killed. The Tree of Life synagogue shooting, killed. Christchurch, New Zealand slaughtered, AME Church in South Carolina, on and on and on.
Catholic,
this is America.
Catholic
and the
pro-life
problem
ministries
is
bombed.
we are not dealing
Catholic
with
pro-life ministries
America's
bombed. You're
original
right.
sin and its disease of hate and racism towards black and brown people and sexism towards women and anti-LGBTQ sentiment. We are not dealing with that. Your colleagues in the Republican Party do not hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on
You
the
can't be calm
assassination
about
attempts?
this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment on
Listen
that.
to what I'm
Is that
saying.
what
The
you're
reason
saying?
why heart disease and cancer
didn't say
and
that.
obesity
I can't
and
comment on it.
diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. If your colleagues would listen and try to learn and engage and grow and stop being so hateful, we could have a better country.
Jamaal,
but unfortunately, we're still here.
The hate's coming from one side.
Jamaal,
Before I let this idiot Latino Vince McMahon talk, this is what they always do when these conversations come up. They try to play the victim. Oh, because I'm white, I can't talk about it. That's not what he's saying. He was giving you a perspective as a black man, and you know that. And this is why I call for black, brown, mainly it's brown, whether Hispanic and Arab people, to stand by the side with black people. I include Jewish people in there too. They hate them for a completely different reason, for these stupid conspiracy theories. But for black and brown people, for these Republicans, it's that simple. Black and brown is bad, white equals good to them. Laura Loomer says there will be another 9/11 because of Mamdani winning. The same person that called Kamala Harris, along with other black women, DEI Shaniquas. Like, these people this is who they are. Charlie Kirk, same guy who said he wouldn't trust a plane being piloted by a black person because they couldn't really be qualified, right? Because the DEI, Ben Shapiro just a couple months ago talked about pardoning Derek Chauvin, the murderer of George Floyd. This is what Republicans do. It's their go-to move. Sorry. It's because, again, for the 100th time, they know the Republicans voter very well. They are essentially feeding them the food they like to eat. And it's called racism or bigotry. They wouldn't do it. These pundits wouldn't talk like that, these politicians, if they didn't think it was popular amongst their viewers or voters. It's that simple. It's not that hard to figure out what's going on here. Those of us on the left, we throw out things like taxing the rich, universal health care, child tax credit, things along those lines. This party throws things out like Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Jews will not replace us. Jewish space lasers. Immigrants are poisoning the blood of the nations. Mexicans are rapists and murderers. Calling black people DEI hires every chance they can get. And that all illegal immigrant jobs, my favorite one, are actually supposed to be black jobs. These people are disgusting. Calling Hispanics violent gangbangers. Calling Arabs terrorists, and so on and so on. This is who they are.
feel your passion, and I understand where you're coming from, sincerely. I really, really do. It happens on both sides, Jamaal. You might think it happens more on your side. Jamaal, when I leave the show, Jamaal, you should see my Twitter feed.
And they're acquitted. Rodney King, Abner Louima, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin, black cops in Memphis. It's not the same. And I don't want to qualify or quantify pain. That's not what I'm talking about. Everyone goes through pain. But the racism in this country is the disease that will destroy us. And it's destroying us right now as we speak.
You're a divided
January
country.
6th, everybody was pardoned. Everybody's pardoned. Riots in LA, they're insurrectionists. But we pardoned everyone January 6th.
So, Congressman,
this
I was
is
there
America.
January 6th. I was evacuated January 6th. That was not a racist incident. I don't know why you're making that connection.
My man was walking through the Capitol with a
I was
Confederate
there.
flag.
I was evacuated, Congressman.
What does the Confederate flag represent?
come on, Congressman.
I'm asking you a question.
This was about a riot in the Capitol.
When you erect a wooden
course,
cross in American history, what does that mean? Google black lynchings in the South and watch the images that come up with black people hanging from trees and white people looking and eating sandwiches. This is America. Are we going to deal with it or not? Why are you in denial?
Stop it. I'm not saying.
Let me let Mark respond.
Actually fought among itself to free slaves.
So, I mean, but what are you suggesting, Mark? I mean, I think, listen, I don't think it's helpful to be in a sort of pain Olympics around this stuff, right? However, I think it is both true that there is a lot of racist violence in this country today, political violence in this country today. The political violence does sometimes target people on the left, sometimes it targets people on the right. But I mean, I don't think it's helpful to sit here and be like, well, it's more on the left, because I actually don't even think that that's true. I mean, I think we've seen plenty of examples of political violence coming from the right, and I think acknowledging that is part of what the conversation's about.
I did not acknowledge that. I've condemned it as well. My point is that it seems like we can constantly focus on the rhetoric on the right when there have been significant actions of assassination attempts against Republican
I mean, I heard you say that, but I think
coverage.
his point was, you're saying that it's about rhetoric on the right. He is saying that there has actually been violence on the right, and you cannot minimize it to just rhetoric when we've seen the violence. That's the point that he's trying to make.
I think we need to hold elected officials.
And they just don't have real, like, arguments that there's racism on the left. What? Protesting on campus that you don't want Palestinian children to be slaughtered, Palestinian people to be genocide? That's anti-Semitic. That's their example of racism. This is their both sides.
Officials and people in public office to a different standard, right? They have a bigger bully pulpit. And what we see, like, for example, let's talk about what's happening with ICE right now. All over the country, a lot of it in LA. You know, there's hundreds of thousands, over 1 million white people who've overstayed their visa and are here undocumented. But I don't see ICE going to where the Russians are in North Miami Beach. I see them going to the Home Depots. I see them going to the farms. I see them going to the places where hardworking Latino, brown immigrants are that they can easily spot. I see them stopping Latino U.S. citizens because they think they might be undocumented. I see them stopping and detaining Latino legal permanent residents because they think that they might be undocumented. I see them beating the head of the father of 3 U.S. Marines on the ground repeatedly as they detain him, a Latino man. And so that is racism. What's happening right now by the administration is racial profiling against the Latino community. We are being hunted down in the streets.
A huge number of ICE officers are Latino. You know that.
I know that.
The assassination attempts.
It's incredibly painful.
The assassination attempts on Donald Trump were deplorable, and the people who did it should face justice. No one asked what religion they were and tried to blame the entire people who belong to that faith on what that person did. There are 2 billion Muslims in this world. The notion that we're stereotyping, and by the way, it wasn't just a new 9/11. Charlie Kirk tried to tie him to 9/11. Right? And it just brings up as an Arab American, it brings up so much feelings of otherness and the pain that people felt after the Islamophobic attacks that continue to this day, that so many minority groups are feeling. It just continues to trigger people with all of the kind of language that we're hearing from this administration. And it just isn't stopping, and it's the role of President Trump to lower the temperature, and instead he just keeps hiking.
Mamdani is an immigrant, and the whole Stephen Miller of it all, I mean, he is essentially saying that because a Muslim immigrant can win an election in this country, that is a sign of how broken the country is.
That's wrong, because, I mean, that's just wrong. And I say that with all heart because Muslims, Jewish, Catholic, I mean, we can go on, voted for Mamdani yesterday. A lot across the board voted for him. So this notion that if you're not Muslim, you can't be voting for.
And we're all slaves or immigrants.
Come on, that's
former
not.
slave.
But Abby, I personally feel like it starts at the bottom, Abby. I really do. I mean, I've been to a couple T-ball games. 2 parents argue over, call it a T-ball game. And it just, they want to fight. And it seems like everybody wants to fight. And that's a challenge. And I don't know. I don't know. If it's just Trump's rhetoric.
Well, I don't want to fight. I just want to chill. I just want to not. I was walking down the street.
Really quick, guys. The question should always be to these Republican pundits, why the F do you think they peddle in this racism? Why do you think it resonates with the Republican voters for them to do this? Republicans can keep trying to fool people with this whole both sides things, but anyone with a functioning brain can see what's going on here. Even with all that's going on in this country, they still have time for this garbage. Whenever these pundits or politicians need some views or attention, give the Republican or conservative viewers and voters some racism served fresh off the grill. And because Republican voters, the majority of them, have just the minimum amount of brain cells possible to be a functioning human, things like this work on them. And they believe in the racism propaganda. I say it all the time, Republicans out there, you see this crap, you don't have to stand by it. And you may look at yourself and think you're not a racist, and that's fine, but you certainly are supporting the normalization of it. You, in my eyes, are not that much different than these disgusting racist pieces of trash. I think I've said it before like this, you are a racist square root. Then you also have the majority of the Republican Party that sees this racism and bigotry, and it's just exactly what they want to hear and believe. But play this game of, oh, no, that's not really what's going on. You're hysterical, or it's both sides.
The other day, some white dude, bald head, he looked me, called me a piece of shit to my face, said, I'm going to get what's coming to me. Why I got to deal with that, dog? In Yonkers, New York.
Well, can I tell you something?
I'm not making that up.
Stephen Miller needs to remember that the current First Lady of the United States is also an immigrant.
I mean,
How
Donald
did
Trump,
Miller's ancestors
Donald
get here?
Trump's grandparents were immigrants. I mean,
what's really
listen, I mean,
really
I don't know who
sad,
said it, but we're all immigrants, right?
Well, our
what's
ancestors
really
were formerly
sad,
enslaved.
what's really sad is
That's
that
different.
immigration reform
But
is really easy to fix. Anna was involved in this early on. It's really easy to fix. Both parties don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They use it as a football, and look what happens.
Well,
it really is. Give them a temporary work. I can go to Starbucks right now and get my credit card approved in 15 seconds. Why can't a worker have a card that says they're legally here to work and check it out in 15 seconds? Why?
In this race, obviously in New York, because of the issue of the conflict in Gaza, Mamdani's stances on Israel are a big part of the race, right?
Because there's what, almost a million.
Yeah, more
Jewish
Jews in New York than any place except for Israel, right? But it also seems that he can't ever fully address them because the fact of his being a Muslim is being used as evidence that he is anti-Semitic in this race right now. And I'm not sure that that's going to float with a lot of the New Yorkers who voted for him. Who have complex views on this and don't want to be labeled as anti-Semitic.
You know, if I was a MAGA person, I can't even say it. But anyways, I actually think I'd shut up and let Mamdani happen, right? Because if you're a Republican and you think that he is as big a disaster as Republicans and MAGA thinks he is, then the best thing that can happen to the Republican Party and to the MAGA movement is for the mayor of the biggest, most visible city in the world, New York City, to be the things he says he is. So. What are you so afraid of? If you know
that's a good question. I mean, they are dabbling in it, and it'll be interesting to see.
He can't address Jewish issues because he's Muslim.
I think it's precisely why they're afraid of him. It's because this is what I said. Why they're afraid of black and brown people. It's because of the resiliency, the competency. They don't want the American population to see that. This is why they hated Obama so much. They don't want people to see that, and that to get normalized.
I'm not saying that.
You did say that just a minute ago.
No. I'm saying no. Hold on. Let me just hold on, Mark. I just want to be clear because I don't want you to misunderstand me. What I was saying was that one of the accusations against him, not by me but by other people, is that because he is Muslim, he does not understand, the feelings of Jewish New Yorkers, etc. That's not my view. That's what other people have said.
And I think a lot of people hold that view. I mean, I have a lot of friends who this morning told me they held their nose and voted for Cuomo because they thought he was an anti-Semite. If that is not accurate. And I don't live in this city. I think it's something he needs to address.
But the point that was also made is no matter how many times he has addressed it, and he has addressed it multiple times, he is still painted as an anti-Semite because he happens to be a brown person who is Muslim, and he can never have the empathy, even though he says, I'm for human rights, we're increasing funding to fight anti-Semitism and anti-hate, and I meet my Jewish New Yorkers in their communities, and we fight together. He said this.
Everyone, thank you very much for...
Yeah, that's exactly it. You protest on campus, oh, you're anti-Semite. Guys, I have almost 300 videos, 85 to 90% on racism and bigotry coming from these Republican pundits or politicians. I've said this before. I could make 300 videos a day. I mean, 3 videos a day if I didn't have a full-time job. It's just a flood of this stuff coming from the right wing. This is what their viewers are ingesting every single day. They're literally being brainwashed. It's pretty sick. And one of the main reasons I started this channel was to fight back against this plague. And the more I see it, the more I see these kinds of things, it really is pushing me to quit my job and to do more of this. And push more aggressively and more viciously, more relentlessly than these people could have imagined. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please leave a like, subscribe. Really helps the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.